Peace, 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 peace. It's your noble Mufti A Wright-Bey, and we back again. This time for BBT Holy Day book reading, and I want to thank you and give you high honors for your presence, taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today to just go over some literature and to give us some enlightenment and some food for thought as we travel through these learning modules, and also to better ourselves and to also get a clearer understanding and a clearer insight into what Moorish science is and how it applies to our life, and also the simplicity in which we already have it in our routines and some of our ways in which we don't even realize. But I want to express my thanks and gratitude from the BBT tribe for you to join us on this particular day. You haven't stumbled upon this video by accident, so I want to give you honor and praise. And without further ado, let's begin our holy day book reading for this evening. Let's go. Peace and love.
I'm a spirit speaking, truth seeking, heart reaching, knowledge leaking, seeds sowing, harvest reaping, man of meager meaning. I have yet to leave, I'm still breathing. To quit, I have no reason. I mean, I'm asleep, but I be trying to live my dream. I cannot even act if it's all easy. Either you gon' do it or you don't. Really, it ain't no in between. Baby, you can ask the sun. It's an everyday thing. Consistency in your routine is how you bring reality. Working like a slave, that's how I made this masterpiece. Living like a god, I lay at night, I rest in peace. They remember me, but I am not Haram or beef.
Peace, 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 peace. Let's do something. Jumping on the stage. Boom. We have the science within more science. Islam. So we want to just read and give ourselves some food for thought and some questions that we might draw up in our spirit. We can take a note or two and make sure that we keep it close and do some research and come to class, maybe be an invited guest of mine, and we can take it deeper. Islam. So let's begin. The science within more science. An exposition on the various scientific disciplines within the doctrine of Islamism and quantum physics approach to unlocking the mysteries of the metaphysical or esoteric teachings of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The discovery of the lower self manifested as a tangible substance in the body which can be conquered via the creation and or reestablishment of new neural pathways in the brain, which is the storehouse of the soul. Right, and we want to give honor and respect to the noble who compiled this literature, Brother A. Hopkins-Bey. Honor and praise. Islam. So let's slide up, son. We're going to drop down. We'll definitely give the acknowledgments or the dedication, but let's read the acknowledgement. Right? It says, acknowledgement 1, it says, I give praise to Allah, the Father of the universe, the one who is supreme, most wise and beneficent, the most gracious, most merciful. To him alone belong worship, adoration, thanksgiving, and praise. I extend high honor to Prophet Noble Ali, Allah's thought manifested in the flesh, the savior of humanity. It will be his works that will make men of every nation accept the truth that he brings. It will be thoughts. It will be through his teachings that the nations of the earth will understand the will of the master. It will be through him, Noble Ali, that peace on earth and goodwill to all men shall come. It will be through his works that humanity will be brought from the the slime of life and placed on the solid rock of salvation. Islam. I extend high honor to the forerunner of the prophet, Marcus Mosiah Garfield, who paved the way for the coming of the illustrious prophet, Islam. So as we want to jump down into some of this meat of this, let's go. let's go. We're going to jump into the preface. And again, I admonish everyone to always jump into the preface of the book and the table of contents to give your mind, a peek at what you're about to behold, right? So to get your attitude, get your spirit ready to receive what you're going to be reading. And it is always great to have a good dictionary by your table side as you study and as you read through any material, Islam, maybe even a thesaurus, but also as we are at the BBT, coming from a divine perspective, and we know that the divine comes first. Noble Drew Ali brought a divine and national movement to us for us to be ourselves, right? But that divine part about it is very, very important to order our steps, right? For much is given, for whom much is given, much is required. So we know we have to tame some of those animalistic natures or nature that is of our lower selves before we can obtain to our higher nature and produce really what our ultimate need is Islam. And so having said that, before we go into study, it is paramount that we offer up prayer, meditation, some contemplation for the things that we wish to receive before we go into prayer, right? So we're going to start off with our map before we go into this. It says, Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Aya Asha Aya. Shalom Alakim. Al-Rahman Al-Rahim. Al-Haq Ya Muhammad. And when we say Al-Haq, that's the truth. And when we say Ya Muhammad, that's the protector. So we're building up a community of truth protectors. And this is another step in that journey. Islam. Islam. The preface begins. The Moorish Science Temple of America was founded by Prophet Noble Drew Ali in 1913 AD. The Moorish Science Temple of America was founded for the express purpose of uplifting falling humanity. I want to read that sentence again. The Moorish Science Temple of America was founded for the express purpose of uplifting fallen humanity. When one thoroughly pursues the doctrines of the Moorish Science Temple of America, one would notice that the Moorish Science Temple of America is also a school, right? As BBT is also a school where one can come and join, right? So as to gain what? Proper instructions, divine instructions at that he or she may be employed so that said member may be raised to a God, man, or woman. The Moorish Science Temple of America must not be looked at from a myopic point of view. What do you mean? The Moorish Science Temple of America is a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization where one can proclaim their nationality, as you can do freely as well within the BBT. The Moorish Science Temple of America is where one can learn about the religion of Islamism. The Moorish Science Temple of America is the spiritual base for where one can come and gain knowledge of self and knowledge of the Father of God, Allah. It's also a university geared towards the discipline of divine academics, which produce men and women who are masters of self. And the temple, as well as in here in the BBT, science and religion are united so as to accomplish the aforementioned goals. So one thing, a lot of times when in certain circles when you may hear the term Moorish science, right? Of course, we have different actors that are perpetrating different things across the internet. You lose no time in finding those type of characters out there that are doing some selfish things, right? But what happens is it gets diluted with what the divine message that the Moorish science comes with, right? And that we become masters of self. Islam. So we're entering into a realm where science and religion is one thing. That's real key right there, where science meets religion and they're one. So where they're not batting up against each other, but they're actually breaking down uh, the science of life. And that in itself is religion, because it is what brings us back to the path of why in which we were created. For we're understanding more of who we are, the science of our creation. That brings us back to oneness. And that brings us back to atonement, right? So this is where we talk about religion, and this is where we talk about that which leads the member or the adherent to the path of wholeness. This is what we're talking about with Moorish science. Islam, let's move on. Let's read some of the prologue real quick. It says, it's often said that science and religion can never collaborate, being that many under the erroneous misconception that science pertains only to the physical world, right? But watch this. In Moorish science, it's coalesced with religion. Why? Because being that true science transcends the mundane corporate world, it must be combined with what we are experiencing in our corporal reality, right? So watch this. The religion of Islamism and science are fused due to the fact that science preserves, right, and keeping religion from entering superstition. And religion preserves in keeping science from going out the bounds of moderation. See that dance right there, right? And it says, watch this. The Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey taught about the importance of science and religion, right? We need to study the brother. What did he say? He said, in your homes and everywhere else possible, you must teach the higher development of science to your children. And be sure to develop a race of scientists par excellence. For in science and religion lie our only hope to withstand the evil designs of modern materialism. Man, that was eloquent, right? Said the Holy Moorish Quran, or the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple, states, teach him science, right? And his life or her life shall be useful. Watch this. Teach him or her religion, and his or her life, or in his or her death, shall be happy. You see this, again, this dance of science and religion. Science is the search for both the knowledge and the how something works. Science adequately explains the mechanisms of the doctrine and philosophy of Islamism, right? Says, watch this. Science explains and demystifies the world through the objective of gathering and analyzing data, so that and subsequently drawing from them significant conclusions, right? So Albert Einstein said this. He said, a legitimate conflict between science and religion cannot exist. Science without religion is lame. Watch that. I'm going to say it again. Science without religion is lame. Look, that's a hashtag, right? Boom. It says, oh, that's a meme right there. Somebody should create. It says, what he goes on to say. It says, a legitimate conflict between science and religion cannot exist, right? So science without religion is lame. He said, religion without science is blind. That's another meme you need to create. Religion without science is blind, right? It says, science purifies religion from error and superstition. Religion purifies science from idolatry and false absolutes. Science and religion together weaves a rich tapestry of new meaning. Watch that. For our comprehension of life. It is said, the religion that is afraid of science dishonors God and commits suicide. Come on here. The science that is afraid of religion denies its creator and discredits its own self. Come on, brother. Come on. Let's jump into some of this. What is Moorish science? And I'll I would like to not move so quickly through these points of reference because we'll see that as we dig a little deeper into Moorish science, we'll see that it's part of all aspects of life, and that it's been phrased in a sense to attribute and honor that which the Prophet Noble Ali has brought to us, but to see that these teachings are involved in science and the creation of life. So it is part of nature, and we've been experiencing these things all our life, yet to put a name to it. What is Moorish science? There are many specific disciplines within the sphere of Moorish science, right? How so? Some areas of science, which are average, right, to the layman persons are what? Biology, psychology, physiology, chemistry, physics, ecology, those particular areas of study, right? To describe Moorish science, we must first, what must we do first? We must first familiarize ourselves with the meaning and the term of science, right? So the word science is derived, for those that study etymology, right? We get into the derivatives of words, right? So it says that science is derived from the Latin word scientia, or scientia, right? Meaning knowledge, right? The normal form of the word sire, which we would get SCIRE, which is to know. That's sire, to know, right? Science itself is defined as a system of knowledge gained through observation, study, and experimentation carried on to determine the nature or principle of that which is being studied, right? So when we look at Moorish science, it is like the nature or principle which is being studied itself. So when you think and hear of Moorish science, basically what we're doing is putting ourselves in the center of that science and religious study. Islam. Watch this. It said Moorish science itself can be described with one word: self-ology. You know that ology is the study of, right? So when you're dealing with self, self-ology, that's Moorish science. That's up because of what? If I'm made in the image and likeness of God, then that means studying myself is what? Studying what? That means that we now get into the mind, what's this, of the creator. Come on, with more science. And we don't gravitate or promulgate one aspect of the science and diss all the others, right? So what we do is we compartmentalize where we need to, we explore and expand where we need to. Islam. Now, watch this, right? It says that the Garden of Eden, it was the first science or system of knowledge which was developed in Canaan land. However, this science was further matured in ancient Egypt. Watch this. The origin of this concept of Moorish science is what? Self-ology. So the concept of self-ology, if you will, right? It was not strange that the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali referenced himself as what? The Egyptian Adam, right? So that's a term and a phrase or a title that Noble Drew Ali introduced himself as. Watch this. The Egyptian adept. He could have introduced himself as the Moorish adept, right? The Arabian adept, the Chinese adept, right? Or even the Turkish adept, right? But however, he intentionally chose to forego those aforementioned titles, right? And deliberately chose to refer to himself as the Egyptian adept. Why? We must ask ourselves, why Egyptian adept? When the prophet unambiguously states in the questionnaire that his nationality is Moorish American. Let us begin by offering a brief history of the land referred to as Egypt. The ancient name of Egypt was Mizrahim, right? This name was given to the land of the Kushites. Mizra is the Arabic official name for modern Egypt. Mizra. Misr. So it's Misr, right? Mizraim was also what? The son of Ham. The Moorish Holy Quran confirms informs us that the fact that the Egyptians were the Hamites, right? And a direct descendant of Mizraim. So a prominent village named Mizra near the famed city of what? Fez is linguistically related to Mizraim. And this shows the power, watch, and dominion of the old Egyptian empire. Egypt also at one point in time was also known as Kemet. The term Kemet comes from Kim, K-E-M, or Kim, C-H-E-M, and Kam, which also or relate linguistically to Ham. Ham and Kam in the ancient Hebrew languages mean heat or black or burnt, right? The early 19th century traveler James Gray Jackson reported that Kam, C-H-A-M, was an Arabic name for Egypt when united to Syria and other countries, right? So those other countries included Palestine, right? Phoenicia and Canaan, right? So the Moorish Holy Quran instructs us that Moorish, or the Moorish, who were the ancient Moabites, founded the holy city of Mecca. Islam, Mecca was located where? In Canaan land, which was also where the physical part of man was first formed, in Garden of Eden. Therefore, the first Adams and Eves, who were Moors, right? And we right here are inserting more to denote original man, if you will, originally occupied Canaan before dispersing abroad internationally, right? So watch this. Africa itself was unoccupied prior to the deluge, as the writer writes here. Said the Moorish Holy Quran states the inhabitants of Africa, or the descendants of the ancient Canaanites, are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites, all that, right, from the land of Canaan. Old man Cush and his family, come on, follow the story, right, were second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa, right? Consequently, the adab instructions the holy prophet received in Egypt can be traced back to the Garden of Eden, or land of Canaan, and the city of Mecca, right? In other words, the sciences studied in Canaan land, the sciences that were studied in Canaan land, that's what we're talking about, Egypt, Kemet, right, were carried into Egypt by Cush and his father Ham, right? These sciences subsequently had been further developed and perfected where? In Egypt. The instructions of the ancient sciences has been institutionalized into what? A system which can be known in Egypt, and to many of us, even those that are in the houses and temples, if you will, as the mysteries. Right, so I want to jump down. We gotta jump down further to get into some of this, right? Now watch this. Many of those exiled Egyptians or hierophants, right, later returned to Egypt, after disbursement, right? So consequently, Prophet Noble Jew Ali went to the source to obtain the information. The teachings of more science, i.e., know thyself, right? Or what? Self-ology, as I spoke about it earlier, was learned where? In Kemet, in Egypt, right? So Egyptian temples carried inscriptions on the outside addressed to neophytes, and among them was the instructions, what? To know thyself. Socrates copied these words from the Egyptian temples and was not the author of these words, right? All mystery temples inside and out of Egypt carried such inscriptions. So the idea of knowing thyself, or self-ology, or more science, right, is paramount for us to be able to master ourselves and rise above our lower nature into our higher self, that we may expand and travel on. Islam. So when you think of more science, you're thinking of self-ology. You're thinking of the knowledge of self. You're thinking of science and religion, brought together, not disputing one another, but reaffirming that which created itself in nature as being, bringing us into a concept or oneness with the mind of God as it speaks in the Holy Scriptures, that we live and move and have our being in that very mind of God, Islam. So more science is bringing us into a relationship with ourselves on a metaphysical and esoteric level, not just the physical. Islam. Now watch this. Knowledge of self is a prerequisite. So I'm going to say this again. Knowledge of self is a prerequisite for the conquest of self. So why would you want to conquer self, right? The lower self. This is what we're talking about. The body of desires, right? The murky ethers of the flesh. These sensations that can overwhelm us at times when they're not controlled, right? Now watch this. That is the first instruction one receives upon opening the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Watch this. Know thyself and Allah. Know thyself is the bedrock of the divine instructions. Know thyself is the bedrock of the divine instructions from Allah or from the Holy Prophet through Allah, right? Know Ali. Watch this. Self-knowledge is the basis of true knowledge. The mysteries require, as a first step, the mastery of the passions. So when we talk about the masteries of the passions, we can go now into the symbology to reveal the significance of why we even examine our carpenter tools, or what our tools in the workshop of the mind, right? This is our workman tools, as we call them, to keep our passions in the bound of righteousness, right? To keep our the corners of our conduct square. Now, what we're doing is getting into the mores. We're getting into the mores, right? Or those things that will be established in society as moral rules, and how we hold ourselves up in nobility and character. Self. This is what we're talking about, right? And it says, again, self-knowledge is the basis of true knowledge. The mysteries require, as a first step, the mastery of the passions, which made room for the occupation of unlimited powers. Hence, as a second step, the neophyte was required to search within himself or herself for the new powers which had taken possession of him. These would be the higher essences, right? The Egyptians consequently wrote on their temple, "Man, know thyself," right? And this is also getting you familiar and acquainted with your spirit, man and woman. Islam, more science adequately explains man as well as his connection with the universe. It enables man to clearly comprehend himself, while at the same time allows him to apprehend the purpose and objective of his earthly existence. In this work, we will undoubtedly witness with the science within Moorish science, which clearly articulates the many practical mechanisms within the doctrine of Islam, which will permit us to plainly see the critical necessity of living the divine instruction from the Holy Prophet, Islam. And that's where I'm going to conclude and end this particular Holy Day book reading for this evening, because this was just to give us some food for thought, and also for you to reach out to us, inbox us for some of these literary pieces that we're bringing forth for you to edify yourself and ultimately to know thyself. Islam. Family, this is what we do. Every Friday, every holy day, we like to bring some literature out to get our thoughts and our mind rolling, and to actually sit down, slow down, and take a moment and by the grace of Allah with the Holy Spirit, be able to bring some clarity and also inspiration that you may take the time out to do a little more digging, right? Ask a little bit more questions, read a little bit more, start comparing those notes that you've been taking in Sunday school, and all of the things that you've studied that great God has allowed you to accumulate and come up to with is now at this point was not by accident. So I want to encourage you to do something with that information, test it out, right? Stand on it, actually put it into practice, do some cross-referencing and researching, and come around some light thinking minds that we can illuminate together and that we can grow. Islam. I also want you to visit BBT ScienceTemple.com. That's BBT ScienceTemple.com. We have some literature for purchase and donations on there as well as go to mypdfbooks.com. So that's books with a C. So that's mypdfbookz.com. And also we have bindedbooks.com. So those are some places where you can check out to get some of these periodicals, and reach out to us if you're on there and you see something that you may want that you might not see. We definitely got it for you, and we make it readily available for you, so you can take it to Office Max, Staples, and print and bind them on your own, or we could do it for you for an additional cost and just ship it out to you. Islam. So listen, I appreciate your presence. We can't have unity without you and I. And you come first. So it was a plum pleasing pleasure to be in your presence. And I want to encourage you to keep pushing, to keep allowing the Holy Spirit to lead and guide your steps into all truth. Peace and love. Until next time, your brother. Peace and love.
I'm a spirit speaking, truth seeking, heart reaching, knowledge leaking, seed sowing, harvest reaping, man of neither meaning. I have yet to leave, I'm still breathing. To quit, I have no reason. I mean, I'm asleep, but I be trying to live my dream. I cannot even act if it's all easy. Either you gon' do it or you don't. Really, it ain't no in between. Baby, you can ask the sun, it's an everyday thing. Consistency in your routine is how you bring reality.